Most people talk about the BMW R GS like it's an obvious upgrade. Bigger number, newer model, end of story. But the more time I spent digging into it, the more I realized this bike isn't trying to impress everyone. And that's exactly why it's interesting. What surprised me first wasn't the power figures or the tech list. It was how deliberate this bike feels. Almost like BMW stopped chasing applause and started fixing things they were quietly unhappy with on the 1250. When I compared the R GS to the 1250 GS, I noticed something immediately. This bike feels tighter in concept. Less do everything perfectly, more do the important things better. That sounds small, but it changes how you read the whole motorcycle. A lot of people think the GS is about size and dominance. Big bike, big presence, big ego. But most GS owners I've met aren't trying to intimidate anyone. They want confidence, not drama. And the 1300 leans into that mindset more than people realize. Let's talk about the engine for a second, because this is where assumptions kick in. Yes, it's more powerful. Yes, it's lighter. But what stood out to me wasn't acceleration. It was how clean the response feels. I noticed BMW really focused on smoothing the experience rather than making it aggressive. Throttle input feels more predictable. Power delivery feels less theatrical, more controlled. It's the kind of change you don't notice on a spec sheet, but you feel it after an hour of riding. Here's a misconception I keep hearing. People assume the R GS is more demanding because it's newer and more advanced. I actually think it's the opposite. Most people miss this. Refinement reduces effort. When a bike reacts exactly how you expect, your brain relaxes. Less micro-correction, less mental fatigue. That's a huge deal on long rides, and BMW clearly prioritized that. The weight reduction sounds like marketing until you really think about it. On a bike this size, even small changes matter. I compared the riding experience in my head to older GS models, and the difference isn't agility like a naked bike, it's confidence at low speed. Parking lots, U-turns, uneven surfaces, that's where adventure bikes either earn trust or lose it. And the 1300 GS feels like it wants to help you, not test you. Another thing I didn't expect was the design direction. BMW clearly took a risk here. This bike doesn't look like it's begging to be loved. At first glance, I wasn't sold. But the more I looked at it, the more it made sense. It looks functional first, emotional second. And honestly, that feels very GS. A lot of riders want adventure bikes to look rugged, even if they never leave asphalt. BMW seems okay with disappointing those expectations. This design feels engineered, not styled. Here's where I started questioning who this bike is really for. It's not trying to convert sport bike riders. It's not chasing new riders either. The R GS feels like it's speaking directly to experienced riders who already know what annoys them. Heat management, balance, interface clutter, little things that don't show up in reviews but matter every single ride. Speaking of interface, the tech deserves a real conversation. BMW could have gone full spaceship. Instead, it feels more intentional. What I noticed is that the tech fades into the background when you're riding. That's rare. Most modern bikes want your attention all the time. This one feels like it's working quietly. Here's a mistake people make when judging this bike. They assume more technology equals more complexity. But good tech reduces decisions, not adds them. Ride modes, suspension adjustments, safety systems, they're there, but they're not screaming at you. That's a subtle but powerful design philosophy. Let's talk about comfort, because this is where the GS legacy lives or dies. I compared the R GS mentally to long-distance touring bikes, not other adventure bikes, and that says a lot. Seat position, wind protection, ergonomics, it all feels tuned for endurance, not excitement. Some riders will call that boring. I call it honest. The misconception here is that comfort means softness. It doesn't. It means predictability. It means knowing how the bike will feel at hour 6, not just minute 6. One practical takeaway if you're considering this bike, don't test ride it like a sport bike. Test ride it like you're tired. Imagine traffic, heat, bad roads. That's where the R GS quietly separates itself. Another thing most people overlook is emotional pacing. This bike doesn't hype you up, it calms you down. I know that sounds strange for a 1300cc machine, but it's true. The riding position, the engine character, even the sound, it all feels composed. BMW didn't chase raw excitement here. They chased trust. and trust is addictive in a very different way. I also noticed something about how people react to this bike online. The strongest opinions usually come from people who haven't spent time with the GS at all. They focus on price, weight, or looks. Valid points, but incomplete ones. This bike isn't about winning arguments. It's about reducing compromises. Here's another practical insight. If you're the type of rider who changes bikes every year, the R1300 GS might feel too stable, too settled, too done. But if you're looking for a bike you grow with, not out of, this makes a lot of sense. BMW didn't reinvent adventure riding here. They refined their own mistakes. What surprised me most is how unapologetic the R1300 GS feels. It's not trying to be cheaper, it's not trying to be lighter than physics allows, it's not trying to look aggressive for social media. It's comfortable being exactly what it is. And that's where my personal opinion lands. The R1300 GS isn't exciting in the loud way. It's exciting in the way a well-designed tool is exciting. The kind of bike that doesn't demand attention, it earns it over time.